Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Monomyth Diaries, a bi-monthly podcast where ordinary people get to share their hero's journey. I'm Mandi.
And I'm Karen, and we'll be your hosts. Each episode will feature a hero who will share their journey of growth.
We'll hear stories about forgiveness, survival, determination, and much more.
We're glad you're joining us because we all have a monomyth to share, and someone out there needs to hear it.
Welcome back to the Monomyth Diaries, our third episode. Just a general reminder that this is a take what you like and leave the rest podcast. Today's story is about my monomyth only.
This is episode 3 and the final chapter on Mandi's monomyth. So in episode 1 and 2, we covered Mandi's background of growing up in a household which struggled with alcoholism, and that led to the disastrous Christmas morning where her upbringing and the unhealthy relationship with her ex-husband comes to a head. Okay, that Christmas leads Mandi to fully commit to her journey with Al-Anon. We learned how Mandi evolved from seeking Al-Anon as a means to fix her ex-husband to embarking on a journey towards personal growth in herself. So here we are, on Christmas disaster to Christmas miracle. Let's talk about the boons. How long have you been in Al-Anon?
Karen, I love that we called it the Christmas disaster to the Christmas miracle. I love that. It is absolutely a miracle that I have been in Al-Anon for almost 20 years. This January it'll be 20 years.
20 years?
20 years.
That's actually a long time. That's awesome.
Yep.
What are some of the most effective tools you have learned in handling life's challenges?
Yes, I'm happy today to say that there's no active alcoholism in my family, but I am still in Al-Anon, still working on dealing with some of the effects of alcoholism. And there are a lot of tools that I've learned along the way. But if I had to pick just a couple, one of them that I would say has been the most useful is regular self-reflection. What we call it in program is called taking an inventory. Taking an inventory is just kind of looking at yourself. We particularly do it in step 4. And we look at patterns, behaviors. We take a deep look at things that make us tick. And in doing that over the years, it's fostered so much personal growth and healing for me. And I've gotten so much out of personal self-reflection. I've gotten things like having an attitude of gratitude. I've learned how to be a humble person. So I've gained a lot of humility. I learned to be open-minded. I had learned to live my life with integrity. And that was something that I had never seen or encountered prior to working with my Al-Anon sponsor and the people in program. You know, I learned to look at all of my problems and challenges, whether they're current or my past, as opportunities to grow, and looked at them as an opportunity, a gift, right? Like, this is a problem and it's not fun at the time, but I know once I get to the other side, I'm gonna be able to look back and think and see all of the things that I got from that problem. I think self-reflection has also really given me the opportunity to reconcile with my past, which prior to 20 years ago, I really struggled with. I struggled with a lot of guilt and shame. I know in the first episode we talked about how I had an abortion, and that really, really weighed on me because I felt so guilty and so ashamed, and I never wanted anybody to know about it. I will share with you, though, I was with a friend of mine the other day, and I got sharing with her. She asked me about our podcast, and so I got, she's like, what are kind of the things you guys are going to talk about? And I shared with her about, I'm gonna tell the world that, I had an abortion, and it was really traumatizing. It was a traumatizing experience. I wish it would have never happened to me, but it did shape who I am today. I can say that I wish that I had different parents who would have talked to me about those kinds of things, but then I would be saying, I wish I was somebody different, because those experiences shaped who I am today, and I can talk about it. And she then shared with me that she had an abortion, and that,
wow,
I know, that conversation would have never come up. You know what I mean? And when I shared that with her and she shared with me, I didn't feel so alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this is what we're doing, right?
Totally.
So that's one tool. My other tool that I would say that I find very, very useful all the time is something I call detaching with love. Detaching from other people. I can still love them. I can love who my parents were and detach from their disease. Being able to detach has also given me the opportunity to care about other people in the right fashion.
Yes.
I don't need to help them. I don't need to save them. I don't need to fix them. It has given me the opportunity to allow other people that I love the dignity to make their own decisions and their own choices, whether they're good or bad. It's not my job to make decisions for other people. Detaching with love gave me the opportunity to really focus on me and focus my energies on myself and not the people around me. One of the phrases that we always say is stay in your hula hoop. You can't fit two people in a hula hoop and make it work.
Yeah.
And so detaching from other people makes me focus on just the person inside my hula hoop, which is me. I've learned a lot of self-interest, self-esteem, self-confidence, just so many things. Finding my voice was something that I never had. Yeah, those would be the two tools that I find that have been the most useful.
Wow, that sounds like, seriously, it sounds like an incredible toolbox you've been blessed with.
I have a giant toolbox. That's just a couple of them. I mean, gosh, I could name so many. Just two is enough.
Let's start with integrity. So how has living with integrity influenced your relationships?
Integrity is huge for me. For a really, really long time, we used to have a magnet on our refrigerator that said integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is looking, so that my son would grow up knowing what integrity was. Yeah. Can I share just a fun little story about that?
Please.
When my son was little, he was in 5th grade and I was a library helper at his school. And the teacher was reading a book and the word integrity came up. And she said, boys and girls, does anybody know what the word integrity means? And, my son was the only one who raised his hand. They're pretty young. At the 5th grade was like 10 or 11. And he says, yes, integrity means you're doing the right thing even when no one else is looking, right? And the teacher looks at him and looks at me and says, in all of my years of teaching, no one has ever been able to answer that question. It's usually something like, I have to explain. And she's like, that's amazing. That is so important to me, that I'm always doing the right thing. And so when we're thinking about integrity, I would say that it's affected my relationships, right? That's the question that you're asking me. It's like, how did it affect my relationships? It affected my relationships because the more and more that I learned what integrity was and started behaving with integrity, my relationships changed. It just was sort of this organic thing that happened. I didn't wake up one day and say, oh, I'm just going to start hanging out with people now that, live with integrity. I felt like over the years, I just started gravitating more towards people who lived that sort of lifestyle, and that really changed who I was spending time with. And so, so my relationships shifted quite a bit to some unhealthy relationships to more healthy ones where people are living with integrity.
Wow.
Which is huge to me. I just find that to be an important characteristic that I'm looking for in other people.
That's so incredible. That I especially like that you mentioned unhealthy to healthy. It sounds like having integrity is a key ingredient to having a healthy relationship.
For me, and that's the thing. Like the beautiful part of doing my monomyth is it's just my experience, right? I mean, for me, it's I need to surround myself with people with integrity. I want friends who feel comfortable telling me if I'm doing something that's not living with integrity. I want it to be pointed out to me so that I can fix my behavior.
Just say I appreciate that humility and that vulnerability and that willingness to be called higher and to do better.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to live life, right? Like nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to make mistakes, and yeah, I like to think that I'm humble enough to own my mistakes and say, hey, tell me, I'm okay with it. Just tell me, how do I make it better? What can I do differently next time?
So this brings me to my next question. As you're pursuing a standard and a lifestyle of living with integrity, can you share about a time when that commitment was tested?
Mm. Aren't we faced with challenges all the time, right? Sure. I just recently was part of a volunteer organization, and there was one particular person who I would call an unhealthy person in my eyes.
Exhibited some unhealthy behaviors.
Yeah, exhibiting some unhealthy behaviors. And I talked with my sponsor, I talked with other friends that I see as mentors, and I tried to set some boundaries with this person. And I thought I was pretty clear. I'd like to think I was pretty clear, and it just wasn't working. And for some reason, this particular person just didn't see eye to eye with me, I guess.
Sure.
I did a lot of praying and a lot of meditating about how to deal with this person, but there was a giant conflict that was not provoked by me. And it's funny because I kind of saw this conflict coming, and I had been working with my sponsor ahead of time about how to handle it. What do I do if this particular instance comes up, or what do I say? And she just said, you say this is not appropriate, and you walk away. Just keep your side of the street clean. It's not the time or the place, right? And I was so glad that I had that opportunity to practice that with her, because that's exactly what happened. Integrity-wise, I really wanted to be part of this group. But my inner conflict was, do I do the thing that's best for me? Selfishly, I wanted to go and still be part of the group. I had a lot of friends there. I got a lot of joy from this volunteer organization. But I also didn't want to bring unnecessary drama to everyone else, because it's free, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep anybody else from participating because they want to avoid the drama and the conflict.
Right.
And so really, ultimately, I decided the best thing for the group was for me not to attend, even though I was sad. I mean, snot cried all over my husband about how sad I was not to participate anymore. I felt like a piece of me was missing. But the right thing, I know in my heart I did the right thing, and that was hard. But that's just an example of trying to live my life with grace and dignity.
That's incredible that you put the community ahead, the needs of the community ahead of your own personal needs here. Seriously, kudos.
Well, thank
kudos.
you.
And not making it about you.
Yeah, I think it was the best thing for the group. And they're doing really well. So they're flourishing. So good for them.
Yay. And I'm glad that you're celebrating that and not getting bitter and resentful.
No, I'm so happy for everybody. Yeah, of course I am. God, did for me what I couldn't do for myself in that situation, which was to leave the group. And the conflict made me leave. So I know it was the right thing.
I keep thinking about your son's explanation in class of saying, like, doing the right thing, especially when no one's looking, and how hard it is. Sometimes it's incredibly difficult. So I just want to give you serious props.
Thanks.
Serious props, especially it came at it wasn't painless. So serious props.
No.
Okay, so the next point, one tool that you talked about, you mentioned detaching with love allowed you to really focus on yourself. So how did discovering your own interests and finding your voice change your sense of self?
Finding my own voice and my sense of self. We're talking about interests? We're talking about interests, right? So I was thinking back to when I first started in program. I was working with my sponsor, and she said to me, Mandi, I want you to make a list of 10 things you like to do. I couldn't do it. I could not think of 10 things I liked to do. I could tell you things that my ex-husband liked to do. I could tell you things my brother and sister liked to do. But when I really thought about activities and things that I did, I couldn't. I'd always been a runner, but I couldn't even genuinely say whether or not I liked to do that, because I started doing it because my brother did it.
Right.
My brother was an active runner, and I loved my brother, and I wanted to do everything my brother did. And so I really didn't know what I liked to do. So because I couldn't make a list of 10 things, she said, okay, well, let's try this. Let's make a list of 10 things you want to try. And that was difficult too. And the reason I found it difficult was I didn't like to try new things because I was afraid. I was always afraid that I wouldn't know how to do it, or I'd look stupid, or I'd fail. So there's all kinds of reasons why I wouldn't try new things. But if I tried new things with the people I was around, then I felt safe to do it. And so that started my journey of finding my own self-interest. So I would just go try things. You know, I used to do some serious long distance running, and I like running, but I found that I didn't really particularly enjoy that. You know, and some things I tried and I miserably failed at, but I was like, I'm going to do this until I get it. And that was a new experience for me. I'm very excited to say today some of the things that I said I didn't like. For example, I used to say I don't like to read. And people who know me today know that I'm a very avid reader. I read all the time. I always tell my husband there's so many books and not enough time, because I feel like I'm trying to play catch up, because for a long, long time I didn't read. I think one of the things was, one, I'm a very slow reader, and I didn't enjoy reading things that I was told I had to read. You know, in school you have to read certain things, and they were always a struggle, and I didn't find that fun. Somewhere along the way, you know, someone recommended to me trying some book, I can't even remember what, and I loved it so much. And it was like, I felt it was years and years below my level of what I should have been reading. But my sponsor always used to say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're enjoying it. That's what's important, right? And so, yeah, so today I can definitely say that there's lots and lots of things that I like to do, and it's helped me develop a lot of self-esteem and a lot of self-confidence. You know, like you said, there's always these try-fails.
Yeah.
And so try something and fail. If you don't like it, don't do it again. Try something else, right? So I don't know if that answers your question.
You learn something about yourself by being willing to take that risk and put yourself out there and try stuff. So seriously.
Yeah, I do a lot of things today that I would have never thought I would enjoy doing, like wakeboarding. I love wakeboarding. I love riding my bike. You know, I love gravel riding. There's all kinds of things that if you'd asked me 20 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, no, I would never do that.
Oh yeah, I gotta admit, like the idea of gravel riding terrifies me. So serious, huge.
And I am not a thrill seeker, for sure. I am not a thrill seeker at all. I know that about myself. I don't love those things. I don't love things that scare me. But that to me is a lot of fun. So
good for you, seriously. Okay, so as someone, me, who like has struggled and continues to struggle to find my own voice, what did you do to find yours?
To find my voice. Yeah, that's, you know, we talked about in the last episode. I grew up in a household there was a lot of turmoil. I was yelled at a lot. You know, it's funny, you hear people say all the time, you know, children are to be seen and not heard. That's kind of the house I grew up in. Oh, I'll give you something to cry about, right? I just never spoke up for myself. Never ever. I was afraid to. We talked about how conflict scares me. I don't like conflict and turmoil. You know, and then there's always that fear of abandonment, right? And so finding my voice through a program, I would say there's a lot of things that I've done over the years that has helped me find my voice. One of them was learning about feelings. I really didn't understand feelings. You know, in my house, there was two feelings, and it was happy and sad, and that was about it, or angry and happy, but there was really no in between, and no gray. And so really learning what my feelings were. You know, am I angry, or am I just really sad, or am I disappointed? You know, what is it that's fueling that anger? Because anger is an easy emotion to have. Probably one of the easiest. And so for me, picking apart, like, why am I angry? Oh, I'm angry because of X, Y, and Z, or I'm happy because of X, Y, and Z. So that really helped. Seeing my part in situations, you know, being able to own in a situation what was my part, whether it was not speaking up for myself, you know, whether it was I was being manipulative, you know, whether I was being dishonest, you know, being able to own my part in a situation helped me find my voice. I would say learning a lot of self-esteem, to have self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love, surrounding myself with safe people. You know, as we were talking about, as those relationships start to change, you know, as I start to gravitate towards healthier, safer people, you know, I started to get more comfortable to express myself and to find my voice. In the very beginning of program, I met my husband a couple of years after I was in the program, and you know, obviously you have to be able to talk to your partner. You have to be able to express your own, you know, your own needs and so forth, or and conflict resolution. And so I remember specifically having disagreements with him, and I would just shut down.
Wow.
Because that's my go-to thing. That was what I did as a kid. I shut down. And he was the kind of person who, I need to fix this right now, right? Like, we were completely different. And so my sponsor and I would talk, and she would have me write him letters. And so I would write him a letter to talk about, you know, whatever that was the conflict, or whatever it was, whatever my feelings were, however I felt the conflict needed to be resolved. And then I would set an appointment with him, because he felt the need to solve it. He needs to know it's going to be solved. So the appointment setting helped us, because he knew we were going to talk about it. You know, I'm willing to talk to you about it on this day, and then I'll be able to collect my thoughts and be calm, and then I'll have this letter, and then I would just read him the letter. You know, practicing those kinds of things was super helpful in learning to find my voice, because it wasn't easy. And sometimes it's still not easy. You know, I really have to think about calling people, reaching out, you know, sorting through my feelings and my part in situations so that I can, you know, express myself properly.
Could I ask, so you talk about these appointments you would make with your current husband. Did he listen to your voice and accept it?
I think he always is really good at validating my feelings.
There you go.
He's good at, yeah, he's good at validating and saying, I hear you, you know, this is what you're saying. And I'm not going to say that that was, you know, something that came naturally to us. We had to practice.
Right.
We had to practice that. But yeah, he's a very safe person. You know, I think in our entire marriage, you know, we've been married for 15 years, and I mean, he's only ever raised his voice to me maybe once or twice.
Wow.
And that was during COVID. And we, you know, I mean, I know everybody likes to use COVID as an excuse, but that was a real struggle in my house. But no, he's a very calm and patient person. And so, yeah, no, he's great.
Again, being in isolation and stuck with each other for as years all the time, you didn't have time to miss each other. So everybody went through that.
Yeah.
But I think that's so key that, you know, thank you for sharing about safe people. And I could see how I could see in your marriage just that you're no longer afraid to express and feel free. So no, seriously, kudos. Speaking of your marriage and your home, what practices are you now doing to create a serene household environment?
Ooh, my house is so serene. I love my house. One time, a friend of mine's son was over. He was in high school. He's a dog sit for us, and he came over one day, and he's sitting at my dining room table. He's sitting there, and he's looking around, and he says, you know, Miss Mandi, your house is really sterile.
Nice.
And I said, you know, I think I prefer to call it serene, because it is a very calm place. It's very peaceful. My house is very peaceful. And again, I circle back around to my first sponsor. She's just such a huge part of my life and part of my journey. She said to me in the very beginning, you know, Mandi, no one deserves to be yelled at. And gosh, that was so powerful, because I grew up being yelled at all the time. My mom never yelled at me, never once. But my dad was a rager. I mean, angry rager. And I didn't want to bring that into my house. And so again, another magnet that I used to have hanging on my refrigerator, but I still have a sticky note in various places around my house that said, let it begin with me. And so I had one that used to hang on my steering wheel, one on my computer, one on my refrigerator. Let it begin with me was so powerful. If I want change in my house, it has to start with me. I will not be a yeller. I don't want to be a yeller. And I want to model that behavior. I want to model the behavior that I expect. You know, if I don't want my husband to yell, if I don't want my son to yell, I don't yell. We encourage healthy hobbies. As a way to keep everybody serene. We encourage healthy friendships. We allow everybody in our house to be an active decision maker. I think that has helped to create serenity in my house. You know, we've always been the kind of family that gives Weston choices. You know, I would say, you know, do you want to do it this way or this way? Do you want to brush your teeth at 8 o'clock or 8:20? You know, trying to always help him know that he's an active member in the decision making. To, you know, I don't want to have battles with people. You know, and I feel like if you know that you're part of the decision, you're more likely to be a part of the solution. I think we work on setting boundaries with one another. Even one of the examples that I would share is when I was working, when my husband and I first met, I was teaching school. And he told me in the very beginning, when you come home from work, leave it at work. I don't want to talk about work at home. You know, I was so taken aback by that. And I remember calling my sponsor and she said, you know, Mandi, not everybody can be everything to everybody. And that's why you have friends. You know, if you're going to have, you know, things you need to talk about at work, call somebody else. You know, it's okay. You don't have to share everything with him. You know, he's setting that boundary.
Wow.
Yeah, that was huge to me that, you know, we weren't going to talk about work. And he still to this day very rarely talks about work. I know, I love it. So, yeah, we set a lot of boundaries in our house, even with each other.
That's so incredible that you guys can communicate on that level to go, here's what I need and what I really can't handle or won't handle.
Yeah.
If you will.
Right. And I may not like it, but I don't have to like the situation, but I want to like myself in it. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is.
And that, I think the ultimate thing, and just having met your family, like, it's very clear you guys work things out. Like, it is that there's not unresolved bitterness or anything, that everything is just, it's clear and in the open, and you guys discuss it.
We try. It's not perfect, but, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, no relationship is perfect. You all have, you know, you're always going to have these peaks and valleys like a roller coaster sometimes. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, 90%, it's the whole idea of take what you like and leave the rest, right? Like 90% of our relationship is great. You know, you got to work on the other 10%. You know, it's a constant battle, right?
Build that muscle. So in what ways has prioritizing your health and well-being transformed your life?
And there's so much that goes on in your health and well-being, whether it's your physical, spiritual, mental. If we talk about my physical for a minute, I grew up in a house where people didn't take care of themselves physically. You know, they drank, they smoked, nobody exercised, and that wasn't modeled for me. And so it's been difficult to learn to take care of myself. When I was first married, I never went to the dentist. I didn't go to the doctor. You know, I was so focused on fixing that marriage that I just neglected myself.
Well,
all the way around. And spiritually, you know, I didn't go to church. I didn't have a God. And truth be told, you know, I was pretty angry with God, you know, that my life didn't turn out the way that I thought it should. Or, you know, I would pray and pray and pray as a little kid, and nothing. I never felt like things got better, you know, and then I just carried all that into my adulthood. And so spiritually taking care of myself has been huge. Learning what that looks like, you know, religion versus spirituality. You know, I now have a relationship with God, the God of my understanding. And I do pray and I do meditate. So that's definitely changed. So now I take care of myself spiritually by doing those things almost every day. I don't do it perfectly. I like to say that I do, but sometimes I forget because it's not been a habit. Like you said, building muscles. It's something that I have to work on. It's a conscious effort. I think the other thing, you know, mentally, I make sure that, you know, I'm going to Al-Anon, that I'm meeting with my sponsor, that I'm, you know, surrounding myself with good, healthy people, that I'm, you know, that I'm reading and learning and trying to every day be a better person.
Right.
And because I've worked on all of those things, it's really come out in my family and my friends. You know, I just have so much to be grateful for. You know, it's a whole idea of I have to focus on myself, right? I know we've talked about this, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first. Focusing on my own health and well-being, you know, helps me to be a better person for my loved ones and for my friends. So
you mentioned
your question.
Yes, actually, you actually said something that moved me, because you just shared about praying as a little girl and feeling those prayers aren't being answered. But looking back, I'd like to say, yeah, it's just that it took a journey and a heck of a lot of training to see the fulfillment of those prayers.
Yes, it's funny. Let's talk about that for a minute. I know this is a little bit of a sidebar. If God would have answered my prayers the way that I wanted him to, I wouldn't be where I am today. And my life is so amazing. I get up every day and I'm so grateful that God didn't answer my prayers the way that I wanted him to.
Seriously.
Yeah, I thank him all the time. His plan for me was so much better than I could have ever imagined. It's so much better.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that, I didn't get what I wanted. Because it's even better than what I could have imagined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really blew your mind. Yeah, he gave you more than you could ask or imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of things that, the God of your understanding has been giving you, how is your relationship with your current husband? And was your journey of personal growth?
Oh, my lovely husband. I love my husband so much. I'm so glad we get to talk about him because he is such a huge part of my journey. As I said, I've been in program for 20, but I've been married to him for 15. So he has been a giant part of my journey. And I'm so grateful that I was in program before I met him because I had done so much work on myself that I got to go into this relationship so much differently, so different than I went into other relationships. I knew going in this time that I wanted to pick a partner who was willing to grow with me. I don't want to stay in the same place. I want to continue to grow throughout my life. There's a podcaster, his name is Ed Milet, and he talks about I'm going to paraphrase what he says, but his idea of getting to heaven is when he gets there, that God's going to be there and say, hey, look, this is the person that I had planned for you to become. How close did you get? Right. And so his whole idea is that you're constantly growing and trying to be that person, that better person. And so I look at it like that. I want to grow for the rest of my life. I don't want to be stagnant. So I wanted a partner that was willing to grow with me. And we talked about how important integrity is to me.
Yes.
And I needed a partner that lived his life with integrity. And if I had one word to describe my husband, it would be that he lives his life with integrity. I needed somebody that was safe, right? I also knew going into that I wanted somebody who's willing to go to marriage counseling, that we can't fix all of our problems by ourselves. And being humble enough to know there are lots of people out there who have problems, and there are lots of people out there who have experiences to share and wisdom to share to help us get through those hard times. Yeah. We lean on his parents all the time. Tell us about your experiences. We lean on my sponsor and her husband. Tell us about your experiences. We lean on you and, and our friends to say, have you gone through this? What have you done? What has worked? What has not worked? My husband does grow with me. He's was a huge part of us starting this podcast. Yes. Because he knew that I had this growing love for Tony Robbins. And he had discovered that Tony Robbins was going to be in Dallas, which was right up the road from us. And he was like, hey, do you want to go to this? And I said, yes. And so we went to that conference together and we did so much growing, and it so changed our relationship again. It shifted again where we're really working together on growing together, in business, in our marriage, our relationship with our son and our friends, things just shifted again because we did that together, constantly growing. Back in the beginning, my husband would go to meetings with me. Here's a fun story. When I first met my husband, of course, you don't want to tell people right out of the gate, hey, by the way, I'm an Al-Anon, right? Kind of might scare people off. And so we were dating for about 6 months before, I told him. And he used to ask me, hey, where do you go every Monday night? And it was kind of a tricky question, right? Because I didn't want to lie, but I didn't necessarily want to put it all on the table. And so I would tell him, well, I'm part of a book club. Okay. Which we do read books while we're there. We do read books and we do talk about books, but that wasn't quite true what I was doing. And the more I was falling in love with him and wanting, to have this relationship with him, my sponsor said to me one day, you're going to have to tell him. And again, it's that whole idea of picking a safe person who lives with integrity that wants to grow. And when I told him, he was so open to it.
Wow.
So open to it that he read books about, growing up with alcoholism. He used to go to meetings with me. There's a meeting that we used to go to on Saturday night. It's kind of this idea of a relationship meeting, right? And he used to go to that with me in the beginning just to understand the language that I speak, to see what it's like, so that he could have a really good understanding of working with me and what makes me tick. So, I mean, he's just such a good human being. I can't say enough good things about my husband. He has been instrumental on my journey. So
I love that.
Always supportive.
He was willing to integrate into your culture, for lack of a better word, like just kind of like, this is what you do and this is how you go about it, and lifestyle, and went so far to read books. Like, wow. Wow. I'm sorry. I'm seriously blown away. I not gonna lie, I kind of wish, I'm trying to imagine a world if everybody did that.
Yeah, really trying to understand your partner is huge.
Yeah. No, seriously. So you mentioned, I loved your words when you said, you and your husband and your son, you have one child only, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to assume something. What does the adoption of your son by your husband mean to you and your family?
Okay, so maybe we should back up just a little bit, right? So my son, Weston, is from my first marriage, right? And I'm not sure that we ever put that out there. I guess maybe we did. Yeah, because we talked about how he hit me at Christmas time.
Yes.
Yeah, so my husband and I married when Weston was 3, and then my husband adopted him shortly thereafter. Weston wouldn't be who he is today if Webb wouldn't have adopted him.
Wow.
I think back to when Webb asked me to marry him, he knew he was asking Weston to marry him too. And so when we married, Weston was in the wedding. This is going to make me cry. Weston was in the wedding, and my husband bought him a ring and gave him vows. Like there wasn't a dry eye in the place. They weren't crying over me. I was the bride. They were crying over, like we were becoming this family, right? Sorry.
It's okay. It's beautiful.
I know it really is beautiful. I was meditating this morning, and my son is about to go off to college, so we'll just cry about that too. So he in a week will leave for Utah. He's a good kid. And his relationship with Webb is so strong and so beautiful. And his relationship with Webb's parents is so strong and so beautiful. It just means the world to me, and it made me realize that we've talked about my fears of abandonment. That these people aren't leaving. Webb's not leaving. He's in it. He's always been in it. He's been in it since day one. The day of Weston's adoption, Webb's parents came. My sponsor and her husband came. Weston didn't have anybody that was biologically related to him except for me. And now he's got 2 sets of grandparents. I mean, it's just so beautiful that family's what you make it.
Yes.
I was born to one family, and don't get me wrong, I love my belly button family, right? Like my sister and my brother, I love them, and I loved my parents, right? But they're all kind of far away, right? And so now he's got these grandparents. Webb adopting Weston too created this safe environment. And again, I have to say thank you to my ex-husband who signed the paperwork to let this happen, because it wouldn't have happened otherwise without him being willing to do that. Because my husband really wanted him and loves him. And yeah, I'm just so full of gratitude all the time. And again, circling back around to, if God would have answered my prayers, I would have never, ever prayed for, yes, God, please, I would like to meet a man who's going to, adopt my son and go through all this with me, right? Like that. I would have never thought to pray for that as a little kid, right?
Totally.
I don't know if that answers your question, but my husband, I can't thank him enough for all that he's done.
Mm-hmm. And when I add, it's beautiful that you shouted out your ex-husband. I just love the fact you shouted out to him and gave him credit.
Yeah,
that's just wonderful.
Yeah,
that you're at the stage where you can show gratitude to even him.
When Weston was little, we lived overseas in multiple countries, and that would have been really hard to do under different circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to provide this life to him that was nothing but safe and secure.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, thanks.
I still, when I first met you and your family, I was blown away when you told me that Webb was not Weston's biological father. I was like, what?
I know, they look so much alike.
It's not even the physical features. It's like the character, how they stand. Like, you can tell, like, Webb, like, it's like, I know who's your daddy. And then to go, what? They don't share the same DNA? But still, Weston is Webb's kid.
Oh, yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, blood isn't necessarily what makes you family.
Totally.
Yeah, and he is, through and through. His dad, their mannerisms, the way they behave. It's an absolute miracle. Mm-hmm.
So there's no denying that you found an incredible treasure trove here through, and let's give you credit, the hard work you've done for yourself. Okay, it didn't just pop up in front of your doorstep. You earned this. So bravo. Okay. Well, let's talk about how you are using these boons for community impact. I love that. Like, you didn't I just keep it off of myself here. You're sharing. You're paying it forward. So can you tell us, what are you involved with, and how are these causes enhancing your sense of purpose?
Something that's so important to me that my sponsor shared with me in the beginning was, because I didn't have any self-esteem. Mm. If you'd have known me 20 years ago, I was quiet, I was meek, I was full of self-doubt. And she taught me that self-esteem comes from doing esteemable acts. And so in the very beginning of working a program, would help with making coffee or setting up chairs. And that was really all I could do to be of service, because I wasn't really ready to talk to people or to put myself out there. I sat in meetings for years and I didn't ever share. I didn't really talk to anybody. I really hadn't connected with people because I was really afraid to put myself out there. And again, it was kind of an organic thing. It just happens over time of, being asked to do service work in Al-Anon, because it was a nice, safe place to do service work. Mm-hmm. And so I'd start sharing in meetings, or I'd start being the speaker at meetings, or I've been the secretary. Currently, I'm holding the treasurer position, which is something that we take turns doing. So we're constantly taking turns doing different types of service work. And so over the years, it felt nice. Mm-hmm. It felt good to help and to do those kinds of things. And so over time, I started finding other volunteer organizations, helping with Weston School, with the PTA and the library. I've helped with Scouts. I've sat on the board for Scouts. I've done lots and lots of jobs for Scouts. I've helped with my workout group. And I think for me, it's that idea of, and as I give, I receive, mm-hmm. right? And so I felt this calling and this purpose from God to serve him, by serving others. When I went to that Tony Robbins thing, this idea of purpose, what is my purpose in life? What am I meant to do? I'm constantly seeking purpose, and volunteering is one of them. Serving others is one of them. And that I said that I was writing a book because I wanted to share my story, mm-hmm. my journey with people. I wanted to share my hope with people, that even though you might be born into these circumstances, doesn't mean you have to stay that way. And through hard work and working on your personal journey, you can get to this other side. And so I've been, I had been toying with writing a book and sharing my story, and and now it's developed into this amazing podcast. Because I just feel this purpose to share stories so that people don't have to feel alone.
Yeah.
I mean, I just found so much value in people sharing their stories with me, their experiences, rather than telling me what I should do. Because the moment you tell me what I should do, it's time I'm not going to do it. But if you share, this is my experience, this is what I've been through, this is what I've done, and and maybe it works for me and maybe it doesn't, but without sharing those experiences and those stories with people, we do feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are doing the Monomyth Diaries. And I'm so grateful to you and to our other friend who have been instrumental in making this happen. So thank you.
And may I share my gratitude for you and just our friendship and the things that you shared and your example. Like, they always inspire me to give and not be afraid.
Yeah.
And to try things that terrify me.
Yeah. And I like that you use the word give, because really that's the idea, right? You give for fun and for free.
Yes.
Right? Or don't give at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, no strings attached. Just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the total freedom in that, like, and like I said, treasure trove boons that comes when you do.
I know. I was so excited about doing this particular episode because I constantly think about all the things that I'm so grateful for, all the gratitude that I have, all, the boons being, this multitude of different gifts that I've received. The gift of friends, good friends, the idea of my family. I'm so grateful for my family. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for Webb, his parents. I mean, we have such a great relationship. I know a lot of people can't say they have a great relationship with their in-laws, but man, I love Webb's family. I don't know what I would do without them. I call them all the time for their experience. My sponsors. I'm so grateful. Yeah, so excited about this episode. I've been so looking forward to talking about all the things that I'm grateful for and all the gifts that I received.
Speaking of being grateful for the people in your life, there's a special someone that Mandy likes to shout out.
Yeah, I know we shared that we want to make sure that we thank all the people who have been instrumental in getting this podcast off the ground and launched. This particular episode, we're thanking Christina Griffin. Christina is a good friend of mine who is a photographer. She owns WDR Imagery, and she was so kind in the beginning and met with us and talked about wardrobes and staging the room and took pictures of us. So you'll see some of those pictures floating around on our website, some of our headshots. I mean, she was just so encouraging and so excited about this podcast. And then she introduced me to this women's association that I'm now part of, and meeting other people and doing some networking. She has been so instrumental. Just a big shout out to her. You can find her at wdrimagery.com. Check her out. She's an amazing photographer. Go look at her website. Absolutely amazing.
We're so grateful to everyone who has embarked with us all the way to the conclusion of Mandy's Monomyth. We hope you get to enjoy some of the boons that Mandy has shared with us today.
We hope that we'll see you for the next 3 episodes, where Karen's going to share her monomyth about overcoming childhood trauma. So we're looking forward. It'll be the same sort of setup. Episode 1, Ordinary World. Episode 2, her journey. And episode 3 will be her boon. So be sure to join us. So thanks for joining me on my monomyth. It's been a lot of fun. I've truly enjoyed sharing with y'all.
Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, hit like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to email us at monomythdiaries@gmail.com with your monomyth and keep the conversations going.
Until next time, heroes, let's journey together through stories.